Good morning, Year 4s. So welcome to today's maths lesson. So we're going to be identifying fractions again. And our success criteria is to define what a fraction is, to recognize the parts and the wholes, to use the correct vocabulary, recognize fractions in numbers and words, and to identify unit and non-unit fractions. Okay, so before we begin our lesson, we're going to do our starter. So try and do this within 5 minutes. Pause the video now and have a go on a piece of paper at home. Okay, well done. Okay, so these are your answers to the starter. So again, the first one was a partition number, so you needed to put those 100 tens and ones back together and thousands. Then the rest of them were multiplication, which you probably could have done all of these mentally, but that one might have needed the column method. Okay, so our vocabulary today is very similar to yesterday. So we need to remember what a fraction is. We need to remember what the whole is, the numerator, denominator, equal, and unit and non-unit fractions. So I'd just like you to pause the video now and think if you can remember what any of these words mean. Okay, well done. So yesterday we said that a fraction was a part of a whole. We looked at halves, quarters, and thirds. And then a whole was the whole number made up of all the parts. And then we looked at the numerator and denominator. So let's look at the fraction a half, for example. We said that the top number was the numerator and the bottom number was the denominator. It's really important to remember those two words. And then we also looked at equal. We said that every single shape or every single part needs to be equal when we are talking about fractions. And then today in our lesson, we're going to explore what unit and non-unit fractions are a little bit further. So our big question today is, what do you think? What fraction do you think this is? So pause the video and look at the blue part that is shaded, or the white part, and see if you can think what fraction that is. Okay, excellent. So if you were looking at the blue, you can see that one part is shaded. And then we have to see how many parts there are in total. So we've got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 parts. So this fraction is 1/5. Okay, or we could write it 1/5. There's one part out of 5 in total. We could also say, if we were looking at the white, so if you were asked what the white fraction is showing, you can see that there's 1, 2, 3, 4 parts out of, we know there are 5, so 4/5. And we could write it like this, 4/5. Okay, so your next step is now to look at these shapes and figure out what the fraction is of the color that is shaded in these shapes. See if you can write the word to. So again, pause the video and think if you can work out the fractions of these shapes. Okay, perfect. So the first one, we can see that we've got one shaded part, which is green, the green part. And then we need to count all the parts to see the denominator. So we've got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. So this is known as 1/8. Okay, if we look at the next one, we can also see that there's one part shaded. And we've got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. So it's 1/7 or 1/7. And then the last one, we've also got one part shaded. So the numerator will be 1. And we've got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 parts. So it'll be 1/6. We could say that's 1/6. Okay, so these are some new fractions that we are looking at. So we looked at halves, quarters, and thirds yesterday. These ones might be a bit familiar to you or might be not. We've got 1/8, 1/7, and 1/6. And if we are looking at fractions of objects, we can look at the same kind of fraction. So I would like you to look at these pictures at the bottom now and match them up with the picture above. They've all been split up and jumbled up. So have a look at them and see what these fractions are representing. So pause the video now and have a go. Okay, so if we look at the arrows, we can see that there's one pink arrow that is shaded out of 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. So this picture is showing 1/6 because there's one shaded arrow out of 6 arrows. So these two would have matched up. It's showing the same thing, just in a different way. And if we look at the stars, you can see there are 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 stars. But one of those stars are blue. So one fraction, 1/8 of that picture of the stars is blue. So that would have matched up with this one. And the last one, we've got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 hearts. And one heart is purple. So we can say it is 1/7 of the hearts is purple. And that would match up with the middle one. It's really important to know that we can show fractions in different ways. So we can show it using shapes, or we can show it using objects. Okay, so this is just to refresh our memory from yesterday of what a fraction is. So we said a fraction is a number which contains parts of a whole. And fractions can be smaller than or larger than 1. Okay, and then we've also said yesterday that that is the numerator and that is the denominator. Okay, so if you have a look at the fractions, we've got 1/4 or 1/4, 1/2, 1/6, and 1/5 on this side. And we've labeled that unit fractions. All of these are unit fractions. And then on this side, we've got 3/4, 4/6, 2 out of 2, or 3/5. And these are called non-unit fractions. So I'd like you to have a think now. What is the difference between these two groups of fractions? What do you notice about them? So I pause the video now and have a think about what you notice about these fractions. Okay, so you might have noticed that if you look at the unit fractions, all the numerators have got 1. Okay, so we call that unit fractions. If there's one part that is shaded or one part that is a different color, like we saw in the previous picture, these are all unit fractions because there's just one part of the whole object. So these ones, you can see, all have other numbers as the numerator, and there are no ones. Okay, and we call these non-unit fractions. So any numerator that is over 1 is a non-unit fraction. So we're going to have a look at some examples now of some non-unit fractions. Okay, so a non-unit fraction is when there are more than 2 parts of the whole. So if we've got a pizza cut into 8 slices, so we've got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 slices, and you eat 2 of those slices. So if we had to color in 2 slices that we're going to eat, that's 1 slice, and that's 2 slices. Okay, we've eaten 2/8 of our pizza. So this is a unit fraction. When more than one part has been shaded, it is a non-unit fraction. Okay, so have a look at these non-unit fractions. Can you notice what they are? I'd like you to pause the video now and on a piece of paper, see if you can spot what the top fractions are. So the fractions that have been shown in a shape, and then the bottom one, fractions that have been shown in an object. Okay, so pause the video now and see if you can work out these non-unit fractions. Okay, well done. So the first one, we've got 1, 2, 3, 4 blue out of a total of 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. So we say that is 4/5 because 4 of the 5 have been shaded. This picture, we've got 2 that are shaded. And then we've got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. So we've got 6 in total. So the denominator is 6. And we say that that is 2/6. And then this picture, we've got 3 shaded out of 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. So we can call that 3/7. And then if we had to match the pictures, we can see that the arrows have got 3 pink arrows shaded out of 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. So that one will also be 3/7. And we've got our stars. So we've got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 stars, and 2 of them are blue. So that would match with that one. And then this one, we've got 1 purple heart out of 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. So that would match with 4/5. Because 4 of them are pink out of the 5. Okay, so those would match. Okay, so these are non-unit fractions. Okay, so have a look at this picture now. All of these represent certain fractions. So can you match any of these pictures that you think might go together? So we can represent fractions in different ways, like we've just seen in the previous picture. We can represent it through shapes and we can represent it through pictures. And these are other ways we can represent it as well. So we've got some shapes, we've got some pictures, we've got the actual fraction, we've got the words, and over here we've got a number line, and we've got some Numicon, and it looks like some Lego. So can you match up any of these fractions? So pause the video now. You might want to write this down on a piece of paper to see how you are getting on. Okay, well done. So let's have a look at these more closely. So here's how each fraction can be represented. So we've got 3/5 over here. So this is the amount, the quantity. And then we've also got 3/5 over here. So this is shown in words. So we're going to highlight these because these two match. Then we've got 3 red dots out of a total of 5. So we've got 3 out of 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. So that is also showing 3/5 through pictures. This one is shown through a shape. So we've got 1, 2, 3 red parts out of a total of 5. So this one would also be showing 3/5. Okay, then let's have a look at these ones. So we've got, again, 3/4 over here. And then we've got some resources, so some Lego. So we can see that this Lego has been split into 4 parts. So we've got 4 equal parts. And then 3 of those parts are yellow. So this one is also representing 3/4. Okay. Okay, then these ones are slightly different. So we've got the Numicon over here, and we've got the number 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. So we've got 8 parts, and then we've got 2 that are a darker blue. So this one, this picture is representing 2/8. And we've got this picture where we've got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16, 17, 18, 19, 20. So we've got 20 parts, we've got 20 squares. And then if we're going to look at the light blue, we can say that 2, 4, 6, 8 of those 20 squares are shaded in blue. So that's a different one as well. And then if we look at the number line, so we're going to look at this a bit later in the week, but that arrow is pointing to that part of the number line. So if we had to label this as 0 on our number line, we can see that this number line is split into 1, 2, 3, 4 parts. And all fractions that are split into 4 parts are quarters. And we can see that this would be 1 quarter, 2 quarters, and 3 quarters. So this one is actually also representing 3 quarters or 3/4. So we can highlight that one in blue. Okay, so it doesn't matter if you didn't manage to correct or match everything, but it's really important that you can see that fractions can be represented in lots of different ways. And some of them will be unit fractions and some of them will be non-unit fractions. Okay, so now is your opportunity to show us what you have learned on Teams. So you'll go and complete the quiz now. And if we just go back to our success criteria from the beginning of the lesson. So you'll hopefully from this lesson now can define what a fraction is. You can recognize the parts and the wholes. You can use the correct vocabulary. So you know what the numerator is, you know what the denominator is, and you know what unit and non-unit fractions are. You can recognize fractions in numbers and words, and then you can identify if it is a unit or a non-unit fraction. Okay, so go into your quiz now, have fun, and I really look forward to marking them later.